News with Jess Lujan.
Hey, welcome back with main studio guest Senator Frank Blas Jr. We're talking about Bill 94-33, and that's the War Survivors Day. Public hearing this week?
This
couple
week,
days from
Friday.
now?
Friday. I want to say in the late afternoon, 2:30, 3:30. Around that time frame.
So come out and support it. And again, public hearing is where it's at. Again, put in your thoughts, and of course, amendments could be had.
Sure.
As a result of this.
And one of the great things, just that I want is this bill has actually been, while I was the author of the bill and the main sponsor, it is actually co-sponsored by my 14 other colleagues. All 14. They, this is something that they see it's
Sure.
a long time coming.
Sure.
And I'm honored that they want to be able to co-sponsor it, and I want to thank them. And say that this is a bill that's put together by the 33rd Guam Legislature.
And that's great. I'm sure there's going to be amendments to enhance it.
But again, I want the focus to remain on making sure that this is a day to be able to honor and recognize it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And not to take anything away from that. Again, it gives the latitude and the flexibility, on ways that there's going to be honor. But just know that on the 28th of June, henceforth, that the bill passes and gets signed into law, that's the day that these things will occur.
Let's talk about, very successful, again, putting out a book less than a year ago. It came out. You ran out of copies. You're looking to print some more, hopefully.
Actually, we still have some, but we anticipate that we're probably, we may print more. I just don't want to print too much because I don't want this to be, a common commodity.
Sure. Get it while it lasts,
Right.
all that. Anyway, you have another book coming out, and these were, again, war survivors, and this is basically what they ate and how they cooked around that time.
And how they survived.
And how they survived.
How they would, took care of themselves. And first off, I want to...
tease us a little bit.
Well, first off, I want to thank, the many volunteer writers, individuals that have actually come up to the plate and have taken on the role. First off, the Guam War Survivor Memorial Foundation. While we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we're very small, quite honestly, and I think that the membership can fit on this platform right here. That said, is we look a lot to the free labor, the labor of love that many people give to us to be able to put things like this together. So we've had a group of writers that have stepped up. I want to thank Norma Aflagui and Victoria Younggrow and the crew, and the rest to be able. I don't want to go through all the other names because I know I'm going to miss somebody. I'm going to apologize for it. But the focus on this book is families in the faces of survival. What are the survivors needed to do to be able to survive the hardships that they had to endure during the occupation. What they ate. How they took care of their clothing, what they had to do with regards to medicating themselves. It's interestingly enough, and I'll just give a little tidbit. I was asked to be able to provide of course, the message, the start of the book.
Sure.
And I go back to what my grandmother had taught me and what I've observed from my grandmother, and the three things I remember my grandmother had that I instilled in my memory is: one, you have to learn how to start a fire. Okay. Secondly, is the many uses of doni. From right down to making food taste good to taking care of that wound that you had. I'm sure you've tried that. Okay. And this crickety old pot that she used to make the best champalado and salaquiles out of, but it was a pot that most people would have thrown away. It's the value of being able to keep things and to treasure things, And so what this book will focus on is, again, how they survived, what they had to do, and how many of these things, while we've taken and we've seen it in our families, we've seen our grandparents and our parents do this, we never really took the time to question as to why. It was always, okay, that's Grandma's Bishu. That's how she, that, but why? And this explored those ideas. These explored these.
You know, Senator, if you keep this up, don't be surprised if the Discovery Channel or the History Channel comes knocking on your door, because we see some of the things that you're talking about, when people have to survive in the wilderness and things of that nature. So don't be surprised that when they come knocking on your door and they put this into a series or a film.
And I tell you what, that will be one of the greatest accolades that we can provide to our survivors. Yeah, again, it all goes back to giving our survivors the recognition and the honor that they truly deserve.
Sure.
Well, it's nowhere near, I guess the discussion with regards to the money, to get the compensation, the monetary compensation. At the end of the day, I just don't want them to leave, and unfortunately some of them already have, without the recognition and knowing that we appreciate what they had to go through.
Yeah.
And we're never going to forget that.
Yeah. Now, I'll be remiss if you didn't say this, because you've been at this. I mean, you've been, when the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? You've been trying to skin this cat every which way that you possibly can, and you still continue to do so. And part of the skin of that cat again is, how can we, since we haven't been compensated, or how can we honor them then? What can we do on our side to honor them, to honor them the best that we can, to try to make up, I guess, for some of those things, And so my question is to you again: will we ever see any kind of compensation?
I'm fairly confident, that we could. There is that light at the end of the tunnel. The other reason why we're doing this is, Jess, the conversation. If we go and we say, this needs to get done, I want us to be able to answer when they ask the question, well, what have you done?
Yeah, sure.
Okay? And I can come out and say, this is what we've done.
Sure.
And we continue to do this. Despite, you not wanting to be able to recognize, we're putting it together so that we continue to recognize and we honor, and the generations after us, will have this to be able to honor them. Because this is part of history we're not going to forget.
Sure. I mean, here we are. Next year we have a presidential election, okay? There are, I think, 10, maybe even more Republicans that are going to be vying for the nomination, okay? And I'm sure at some point, quite a few, if not them themselves, their representatives are going to be out here, and I think you're one of the delegates, right? If not, to the Republican convention?
I was.
You were, okay.
Okay, was.
Well, when that time comes again, we'll be placing the Republicans for the Republican nominee, and the Democrats will be doing as well. Almost every year, or every presidential election, he's with us, he's an island boy, don't worry, we know your plight. I mean, they're already doing it for the Hillary campaign. Yeah, she knows all this. Well, yeah, they know our story. We have to keep telling it. But again, we still are knocking on the door, and I mean, they know we're around, but nobody's yielding to our knock.
Well, one of my favorite stories came from a well-known author called Dr. Seuss. Okay? It's called Horton Hears a Who. Remember the elephant that went into the jungle and found a whole civilization that lived in a speck of dust, and they were going to be